Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Placemaking. What kind of place would this be without sports? More on that in a second. I was thinking the other day with my staff, some of which are here, and thanks for the support, that I'm preparing for my 20th plus season of basketball, 20 straight seasons of basketball. Started out as a player, 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, and then I've enjoyed most of my 12-year professional career as a worker in basketball. I mean, it's amazing to grow up and do what you love, which is always our goals as kids. So I played basketball for the camaraderie and the competition, but I stayed in basketball, honestly, for the way it makes people feel. And I always ground myself when things get stressful or crazy in our jobs. I always ground myself in my first game, my first Sixers game that I attended mid to late 90s at the then First Union Center, where a young guy named Allen Iverson was lighting up the gym. And I don't remember really anything about the game that night, or really the basketball, but I remember how I felt. I remember the atmosphere, I remember the excitement, and I remember being part of a group of fans and really feeling that sense of inclusion. So harnessing that feeling as it relates to our community, just think about this up front. What other institution that we have galvanizes, mends, heals, empowers people the way sports does specifically? In our office, we call that power of basketball. And we remind ourselves that basketball has power day in and day out. So my disclaimer here tonight is that I am not going to say anything that's truly groundbreaking. Rather, I'm going to introduce some simple concepts that are simply individual. But when you put them together, the algebra on it hopefully makes a little bit of sense. So first, taking through this, we're going to define sport just a little bit. Then we'll identify its youth influence, look at some proof and case studies, and close up with how sport exists in Wilmington and its role in placemaking. So sport as a uniting factor. Basic stuff here. The principle of team, we all felt that, whether you played or observed or watched as a fan. The age-old attitude when sports were only on the radio, let's gather the family around and listen to a baseball game. That's inherent in our family lives and the way we were brought up in so many cases. We always rally around success as it relates to sport. And of course, we commiserate in loss. Sport, as it relates to the physical act of gathering people together, whether it's youth practices, games, or events, or the bonds that you have with teammates. My teammates remain my closest friends. And in venues big and small around the globe, again, that feeling of being a spectator and coming together to watch something together and to root on something together, that physical act of being together. So much so that there are businesses themselves that are built on sport gatherings. We can name a lot more than this, but hotel and hospitality, restaurant and concessions, merchandise, event management, ticket sales, marketing institutions, advertising, and the guts of it, how a game works, parking, security, behind the scenes, back of house. So many businesses revolve around this sense of gathering at sport. So here's my first algebra problem. It might even be arithmetic, very, very simple. Sport defines togetherness, and togetherness, of course, defines sport. Local sports and education. The Delaware Bluecoats might have stolen that idea from the NBA just a little bit. Books and basketball program has players read to students. Students pick a book and take it home. The impact so far is the team has visited 150 classrooms in 4 years and distributed more than 62,000 books. Again, using that principle of putting athletes as role models in front of kids to influence positive learning and positive development. The Wilmington Blue Rocks have Rocky's Reading Challenge. That's associated with the Delaware State Education Association. All students in the program are challenged to read 10 books. They're rewarded 2 tickets if they read those 10 books. And so far, the impact has landed in 200 schools and more than 30,000 students. Good sports, play on words here. The way sports do good in our communities, another favorite of mine, Sixers mascot Franklin walking into a Philadelphia public school not too long ago and lit up the room for all the reasons we've described previously. Complimentary ticket programs. Chase Fieldhouse, our new facility here in Wilmington, has distributed in the last 2 years more than 25,000 free tickets. You can look at that as 25,000 opportunities to have the feeling that I had that night at First Union Center in the mid-90s. Fundraisers, using sport to bring people together, ticket give-back programs where you're selling tickets and raising money for causes, incentive campaigns. These are all things that really lead to, at the end of the day, a sense of inclusion. The NBA, for example, is only in less than 60 markets in the United States between the NBA, the WNBA, and the NBA G League. And we really do believe that the sense of pride comes from Wilmington being one of those very select few. Frawley Stadium, we talk about tickets as opportunities for experience. 66 games times 6,000 seats equals 400,000 opportunities for those feelings of positivity and experiences each season. It's right here in our backyard, and not too far from it, again, is Chase Fieldhouse. The tourism at the Fieldhouse in a recent case study estimated that in terms of bringing business into Delaware, there was a potential of more than $80 million per year in terms of lodging, tolls, meals, fuels, hotels, restaurants, those types of things. The potential, again, $80 million. And in fact, nationally, what sports does to economies at large, nearly 180 million people traveled to sporting events in 2019 when this study was done. It generated 69 million hotel stays. Sports travelers, event organizers, and venues spent $45.1 billion on sports and generated $103.3 billion in business sales. So that means that almost $124 million was spent every day by sports travelers, event organizers coming into cities for sporting events. And finally, in the same study, they broke it down in terms of transportation. The sport transportation is a $12.5 billion business nationally. Lodging, hotels, $9.2 billion. The list goes on and on. At the end of the day, sports build communities in a few ways. So I'll conclude with this thought. To truly build a thriving and sustainable community, that there's a belief that we must both lift up its infrastructure and its people, namely our area youth. So few institutions can do both simultaneously as effectively as our beloved sports. Thank you for your time.